Okay, no pressure. Good morning, everyone. This is Joy from Strong-Hearted Native Women's Coalition. I'm the Youth and Education Coordinator. Today is our final in our speaker series. So for the last 6 weeks, we have had the pleasure of working with 6 different individuals speaking to their areas of expertise. Today we have Dean Hoaglin. A couple housekeeping items. We are recording this session. There will be some time at the end for question and answers, and there will also be a time when we turn off the recording if you have a question that you don't want to have recorded. So Dean is a descendant of the Hukukio Band of Coast Miwok Indians of Marin County and the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians of Lake County on his maternal side, and the Wailaki and Yuki Indians of Round Valley Indian Reservation in Mendocino County on his paternal side. He was born and raised in Santa Rosa, California, all the while being exposed to traditional teachings and practices from family and extended family elders. Mr. Hoaglin has over 25 plus years in social service work and Native American programs throughout the Bay Area, Sacramento, and his home territory of Marin, Sonoma, Lake, and Mendocino counties. His work has focused on AOD prevention and education, wellness, recovering, and healing from many forms of trauma, domestic violence advocacy, and direct services and leadership development for both youth and adults. Dean believes in the importance of utilizing culturally appropriate strength-based approaches in services delivery for the benefit of tribal people seeking positive lifestyle changes and overall improved health status. So welcome, Dean, and thank you for joining us again today.
Oh, thank you, Joy. I appreciate it. Thank you for guiding me here to be with everyone. It's always it's a pleasure and it's an honor. I'm humbled. So, Yahweh in our language, thank you. And I'm ready to go. I think I got my
Okay.
7 hours of sleep. Because that's one of the things maybe we'll get into kind of adding. I don't have it in the PowerPoint, but it's something that I think it's so important because I believe in, when we talk about, like healing and recovery and that care of ourselves, we need to focus on, what self-care looks like too. And maybe I'll just kind of like do that organically and talk about those ways, right? And so that's what I'm saying. I got at least my 7 hours of sleep, right? At least that, so that I can be focused, mentally, available, and so I'm feeling good about today, and so
Good.
and I appreciate your support and your help, and I want to thank Keely too for the invite, and Strong Hearted Women's Coalition. You guys do some awesome work. I want to build you up, affirm you guys for that great work that you do. So as we move forward, yesterday I just kind of want to really do just a small kind of glimpse of what we did yesterday. Really yesterday when the presentation and what I focused on really was kind of like the challenges. What are the challenges for our Native men? What are they recovering from? And I will include that in this presentation, but really it was about recognizing our history. Like, how did we get here, right? How did we get to this place in time where we have all these challenges, these social and health and issues around for our men and actually young men too, and so I think it's important for us to always know where we have been, to see where we're at now and where we want to go. So that's, and like I said, that's, I always ask that question, for the men and the boys, the youth that I work with is, who are you, why are you, and where are you going? And so we all should be asking ourselves those questions, right? To gain, a perspective and understanding on, what it is, that we need to do for ourselves and can do for ourselves. So with that being said, it was pretty powerful yesterday, what we shared, and there was a video that I would like you to share again with our audience today. And I know we had, kind of the starting off, there was some technical difficulties with that, and we're all learning. I mean, this is kind of like the new norm, being virtually, connected to one another and sharing information, sharing, our teachings with one another. And so I'm pretty old school, so this is this is always going to be a test for me, and I admit it, I'm more like, I like that, this is why it's a challenge, in the shelter in and, dealing with this pandemic, I'm more of a, kind of like connection, share space like that, and so we're gonna show this video, and it's gonna speak to about, because one of the things that we really focused on yesterday was the childhood adverse effects, that many of us have experienced, and for a lot of our Native men and young boys, what that experience is, and so it's important for us to look at that. And one of the, when we talk about even like rites of passage, unfortunately, for a lot of our men and young boys, it's that, being incarcerated, but how did they get there? So that's what this video speaks to. So if you can share that with our audience today, Joy, I really appreciate that.
It's time now, everyone. We're gonna do the compassion trauma circle. Is everyone ready to face their past with compassion? Is that a yes? While you were growing up, during your first 18 years of life, if a parent or other adult in the household often or very often would swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or threw something at you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very...
We're having a little continued technical difficulties.
Sorry, we get everyone saying that they cannot see the screen.
Okay.
Same.
It worked yesterday, no?
No issue.
Oh, here, wait, watch. I know what it is. Just saw it. It's me, yeah.
Oh, you have to switch it back to presenter.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, we're just gonna start it because it's, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, we're good. Sorry.
It's time now, everyone. We're gonna do the compassion trauma circle. Is everyone ready to face their past with compassion? Is that a yes? While you were growing up, during your first 18 years of life, if a parent or other adult in the household often or very often would swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or threw something at you, step inside the circle. If a parent or other adult in the household often or very often ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured, step inside the circle. If you often felt that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, step inside the circle. If your family lived in extreme poverty, step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle. Step inside the circle.
There is no shame.
I'm so good. Good to see you. How are you? Amen.
Oh, well.
Oh, wow. Good to see you. Welcome. I was abused as a young girl. I was beaten by my mother. I was verbally abused by my mother. I was sexually abused by another man. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was a rageaholic. I've driven drunk. I've sold drugs. I was a juvenile delinquent. Probably my story is similar to most of your stories in here. I'm white and I'm female and nothing happened to me. So, I got a get out of jail free card. And so I'm here now because I see myself in every one of you.
I'm a traumatized child, raised by a traumatized child. My mother was traumatized as well as her parents.
Like he said, we wasn't born in the world of being evil people. My mother didn't want me. She hid her pregnancy. She tried to flush me down the toilet. But as I learned about these things, I always asked myself what was wrong with me.
When I come to the circle and I see everybody else and she's reading off the questions and people stepping in further, I look at my childhood, I'm like, a lot of these people in this yard are just like me.
There was one step I should have taken that I didn't take, and I saw some of my brothers and my friends take that step, and I felt like such a coward. You know, I wasn't brave enough to be there with them when they took that step. And every round after that, I took the most difficult step.
Our traumas kept us separated. We were all on the circumference, all standing apart. But once we began to acknowledge our traumas publicly, it brought us all closer together.
In prison, you're not supposed to show your weaknesses in prison. But to want to do that, to walk in that circle like that, and to take each step forward was a reminder to ourselves that we still have the humanity and we worthy to be loved. Most people on the outside don't understand that we want to change so we can re-enter society better than what we left it. I think one of the things that when you was yelling that no shame and you had us yelling it out, it was freeing us too. And it was a point to where when I was looking at that and we was all looking at it in a circle, you can hear that echo, no shame. And that was very powerful, especially coming from a little lady like you.
I'm 76 years old. I've seen a lot. I don't like talking. I like to meet people that understand what's happening without words. And you one of them. Today has been one of the best days I had in my whole entire life. Since I've been these 40 years.
Your true spirits are not violent. Your true spirits are magnificent.
Hi, my name is Fritzi Horseman, founder of the Compassion Prison Project. Thank you so much for watching our promo for Step Inside the Circle. We're asking for donations so that we can continue our urgent and important work. educating the public about the devastating effects of childhood trauma, and bringing this awareness to the men, women, and children living in prison. Our mission is to transform prisons into places that focus on education, mental health, and rehabilitation. Your donations will help us advocate for trauma-informed care, community support, and a shift in the paradigm in how we incarcerate, isolate, and dehumanize the most traumatized members of our society. Thank you again for watching.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Joy. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And you know, that's probably about maybe the fourth time I've watched that video. And it's like, for me, it's like any other thing I experience or go through, you know, I pick up things, you know, I see it differently. And certain things may stand out, you know, that I didn't see before when somebody shares with me. So just kind of keep that in mind, you know, very powerful. Again, it's important for us to look at, you know, when we're doing the work, you know, I think that, you know, it helps us, you know, when we understand and, you know, and working with, you know, that ACEs template, you know, that shows, shows us, you know, how to be present with our relatives that we're helping, you know, kind of like, you know, seeing, you know, maybe, you know, how their health and, you know, their development had been impacted by that childhood experience, right? And to have more understanding about that trauma, you know, what it looks like, how it impacted, you know, our relatives, and also to, you know, help us in identifying, you know, is it still impacting them, you know, in their lives. And when we recognize that, when we know that, when we're aware of that, then we can begin to look at what are going to be, you know, the ways, you know, the strategies, you know, that we're going to do the work with them, right? And just also, I think it's important for us to keep in mind that they are not that score, because there's a score that you come up with from the ACEs, those 10 questions, right? And regardless of what that score is, they are not that. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind, because when we do that, then that's a form of, again, of stigmatizing, of labeling. You know, these are our human relatives, right? And so many of us have experienced, you know, those sorts of trauma. Some of us, you know, at a deeper level. And a lot of times, like I shared yesterday, we do something similar to that, what we call the cultural walk, and you know, ask our relatives, you know, that we're sharing space with, to, you know, to take that walk, you know, if you had any of those experiences, you know, and the idea is to, again, to acknowledge that, and to know that that was the experience, you know, and that it gave you the opportunity to learn, one, that was your experience. It wasn't because of anything you did, but also that there was a lesson there, because it showed you. Because if you felt a certain way, if you felt trauma, if you felt pain, if you felt hurt, you felt all those negative emotions, and now you know what you don't want to feel. So it's really a great way, you know, it's a great tool for us to share and to utilize, you know, when we're working with our men, and, you know, and young men, you know, in the work that we've been doing, and again, and with our women too, right? And sharing in those spaces, in those circles. So thank you again, Joy, for sharing that. And I just wanted to, you know, again, that's kind of like, you know, where we, you know, kind of like what guided us through our conversation yesterday. And so I think it also impacts, kind of like how we believe, how we think, how we see ourselves, right? And a lot of times it's not always, positive, because there's a lot of things we have to, deal with around shame, especially with children. Children, once they experience trauma, once, that innocence is taken from them, what happens a lot of times is, they'll blame themselves, so that's why we have to look at, how can we prevent this, right? Not only do the work with our men, to help them heal, but with our young boys, our children. How do we create a environment that is nurturing, that is supportive, that is loving, that is safe for them, where they can recognize that they are valued, they are protected, they can make choices, they can, and they can make mistakes too, which is a part of learning, going through that, that learning process, and that's what it's about. So let's say about that much. And so if we can, I want to share again now, it's kind of like, looking at, okay, how do we, still looking at, where do we start? What are we recovering from? Okay, and so came up with this short little PowerPoint. Okay, and so and again, I just want to encourage people, if you have any comments, right, please feel free, and I don't know if we want to, as people, if they do have comments, do we want to wait till go through this, Joy, or is that however
If they want to type in a question, we can do that, Dean. And
Okay.
I can't see the question tab, but I have my coworkers helping me
Okay.
view that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's like I always feel like, in anything that we do, especially around, like sharing information, sharing teachings, I've heard this before. It's like, we kind of get out of it what we put into it. So I want you to, really, I want to encourage everyone to be engaged and, take some healthy risks. If you have a question or a comment, or, and I talk funny too. I sometimes I keep, I get going, I speak fast. So I'm like, what did I say? Right. And then, did he really say that? Oh, okay. Anyway, so and that's something I shared yesterday, right? I mean, some of the teachings, like from my grandma, it's like, we have to be able to laugh. We have to be able to, have that balance, be responsible, but yet, have some laughter, and that's medicine, that's healing for us. So, so I came up with this PowerPoint to talk about, again, the work around healing. And I came up with this title, Healing Generations of Men. That's our work. When we talk about, the healing work, if we're working, with one man or, a group of men, and how that works for me is I work with men individually and in a group setting also, with our men's gathering, our wellness gatherings. And just a little bit about that, I was a part of an organization. I still am an advisor to the Native Dads Network based out of Sacramento. And I guess you could say I'm one of the founding fathers, of that organization, that, and I want to acknowledge my brothers that was a part of that. Of course, my cousin Mike Duncan, Albert Tipman, and Calvin Hedrick. And there's just I just admire those, my California native brothers, and so it began this work in working with our men, because You know, we had this experience, you know, where, you know, people, you know, had a view of, you know, who we were as California Native men, and it was all negative. You know, it's like, what? Oh, shoot, we have to respond to that in the best way we can. So it's like, let's show, you know, our relatives, let's show people that we are honorable men, you know, and that we do have, you know, compassion, and we do have, you know, the intention of helping our other relatives, you know, in every way possible. So getting back to, you know, this idea around healing generations of men. Again, when we begin that work, you know, we're not just healing, and we're not just, you know, looking at, you know, when we look at working with individuals, groups, we realize that we're not just, you know, healing and helping with them, but anytime we can help any one person, we're going to help the future generations of men that come after, right? And that's our kind of like our native way. We understand that everything we're doing, you know, we're doing it for, you know, with the idea that it's going to impact our future generations, right? And so, you know, and it's really around that idea of, are we being a good relative? Are we being a good ancestor? And, you know, when I posed this question one time to one of our tribal leaders, you know, I asked him one day, I said, are you being a good ancestor? And his response was, dude, I'm not an ancestor. So, you know, I mean, so I shared with them, you know, what I meant by that, you know, because our ancestors had us in mind, and that's why we're still here. They did everything for our survival. They sacrificed, and they had us. We are those prayers of our ancestors. We are that. We are that living prayer of our ancestors. I really believe that. And so that's why I always give thanks, you know, like this morning when I got up, you know, I thank Creator for my ancestors, for our ancestors, you know, and then, you know, and for this life, right? And so I want to always, you know, be intentional with that. So that's where this idea came from, though, you know. Again, keep that in mind. So next slide. So again, what are we recovering from? And we identified, you know, some of those yesterday, you know, and so this might have, you know, again, maybe some, if not all, and some that you didn't see yesterday. And again, of course, the first one is trauma, right? Just like from that video, we're recovering from trauma. Our men are, and one thing that I want to point out with trauma, it's multi-generational, meaning that it's something that we inherited, right? It's something that's been carried forward. You know, our ancestors, our elders, you know, our relatives that experienced trauma. It's like, so that's what we're, you know, kind of like carrying. We're recovering from violence, and violence in every form, right? Violence towards ourselves, towards our women, towards our children, towards the land, towards, you know, our community, you know. So all forms of violence. That's what we're recovering from. And talked a little bit yesterday about, you know, kind of like the history of, you know, colonization, and how, you know, violence was kind of like a big ingredient, a big part of what was, you know, that experience, you know, along with, you know, with the genocide, right? Loss of identity. We're recovering from that. Kind of like, who are we as Native men, you know, and how did, you know, that trauma and that genocidal process, how did how did that contribute to us losing, that identity? And identity is associated with, our relatedness, to our people, right? And to the places where we come from, and loss of identity also is associated with, what our roles are as Native men, so that contributes to that. So it's important for us to look at that. And there's that next one, there's that big one, shame. And so it was noted in that video, we're recovering from that. The shame of, of why we, why we went through what we went through. And we internalize, that experience, that, it's all on us. A lot of Native men have so much work to do around that, to heal from that shame and change the thinking, and to more about, how can I be responsible now for the choices that I'm making, right? Alcoholism, drug addiction, we're recovering from them, and again, it's still, the reality is, alcoholism is still, such a pervasive health crisis for our people, right? And again, alcoholism, alcohol was introduced to our people. It was a part of that genocide process, right? And then, we all know about how, it was really about coping. Our men use alcoholism, drug addiction to cope with, all these things, all this trauma that they're going through, right? And so that's we have to understand that. We're recovering from incarceration. So many of our men, unfortunately, in my own family, I have two siblings that are currently incarcerated. And so it's hard. It doesn't just impact the individual, but it impacts the family, the loved ones, right? So incarceration is at that level of disenfranchisement. Again, it just really separates us from, our families and our people. And it actually even creates a certain thinking of what survival is in that space. Unresolved grief. We are recovering from unresolved grief, because it's like, those experiences of trauma and those experiences of losing everything and anything that was meaningful to us. We're carrying that grief. A lot of times our men carry that grief. It's a burden, and they don't know how to, let go of that. And again, we have a lot of work to do with that, right? And that's around forgiveness. That is around forgiveness. Hopelessness. Wow, which is, we're recovering from that, because all these things combined takes us to, or brings us to, that sense of hopelessness. It's almost like, what's the use? This is, and almost to a point of like indifference too, right? It's like, this is the way, this is my kind of what was meant for me, and so that's really powerful, and but we can't recover from that. We need to, look at how do we create hope for our men. So next slide. Yeah. And again, you know, I listed these things, but there's other things too. Yeah, you could probably, if we process it, there's probably other things we could come up with. Okay, just kind of keep that in mind. I think it's important, you know, when we look at, again, acknowledging, you know, what are we coming from, but, you know, how do we begin that journey, you know, of healing? So, you know, came up with this idea of finding our purpose with purpose, because I believe that each one of us has been put here for a specific purpose, right? Each one of us, you know, and how do we do that? How do we find that? Well, I've listed some ways that I feel like, you know, we can begin that. And we have to be purposeful, being intentional with what we are striving for. We have to be intentional. We have to know what it is we're striving for. We can't be wishy-washy. Maybe, I think so. I don't know. No, we have to be, this is what I want. This is what I need. Right? This is my prayer. You know, and so that's why, you know, I think there's power in that. Replacing fear with hope. Replacing fear with hope. Because fear, you know, I heard people talk about fear, you know, and having a relationship with it. There's an acknowledgement, you could acknowledge it, but it shouldn't be what guides you. You know, again, I like to draw this analogy of that burden basket that we all have. You know, and fear was, you know, a companion of ours, but is it really serving us? Not if we want to heal. Not if we want to recover. Not if we want to be the people that we were intended to be. So there has to be that change. Having confidence to succeed. Where did that come from? Having confidence to succeed. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I have it. I have the ability not only to succeed, but to know what that success is to me, what it means to me, right? Nobody can tell me what that is. I have confidence that I know what it means to me. Acknowledge our new path is the true path, right? Because, and here's, you know, here's my thinking with this. There has to be, you know, you have to acknowledge that, you know, you have the choice to, you know, again, to be on a certain path. And that true path, or that what I call the good life path, I know, I've known that, you know, once it was shown to me, that's what's gonna give me, you know, everything that I wanted. That's what's gonna take me away from, you know, what was painful to me, right? What was not so good for me, right? So we need to know that, you know, again, you know, and don't believe, you know, again, the lies of, you know, maybe what the path that we're on, that, you know, that was the only way. So we need to, you know, have that perspective. Celebrate your steps of growth with others, right? We need to celebrate that. We need to celebrate when we're making those steps of growth, kind of like those aha moments, right? You know, kind of that affirmation, you know, because it's kind of like along the lines of, you know, like I say the fellowship of AA. What I learned at, you know, is, you know, it's like, it's so powerful when we can, you know, celebrate with others, to show others that this, you know, it can happen, right? Once we make that decision, once we're going intentional into our healing ways. right? And again, affirm who you are becoming. Yes, I like who I'm becoming. This feels good, right? This really feels good, and that I know it's right for me. I know I deserve this, who I'm becoming. And again, enjoy your moments of clarity. Yes. It's like victory, we need to enjoy those moments of clarity, right? It's like, man, I was in the fog. Now I can, almost like that song, I can see clearly now. Okay, I'm not going to audition, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. That it's so important for us to do that, right? Next slide. Oh, Lord, we know it. We're not alone anymore, okay? Yeah, because, where we came from, lonely place, stuck in our, our misery, all that, again, depression, that, it's like that anxiety, that sadness, no one cares, right? But when we begin on this path to recovery, we have to recognize, and then we ask too, it's okay to ask for help, right? It's okay to ask for help. Because what that speaks to is having that courage, right? In anything that we do, we have to be courageous. And we have to be humble. Beginning the journey of recovery, right? So knowing that, it's not like somebody's gonna, do it for us, but yeah, still they can't, we kind of like invite those others to see and to guide us, to help us, stay on this path of recovery, right? Recognize you are worth it. Yeah. We have to recognize we are worth it. I'm worthy. I deserve this. I deserve, goodness. I don't have to be stuck in, again, misery, right? So important. That's that whole affirmation, right? But it starts with ourselves. We need to affirm ourselves first, and expanding our view of what is possible. Expand, because a lot of times it's like, from our experience, maybe we've only seen it a certain way, right? Which is probably the wrong way. And so we need to expand that view of what's possible. Like, and like, early on in my own recovery, I was like a sponge, okay? Give it to me. I'm going to use everything at my disposal, right? So, but I need to expand my view of what is possible. Choosing creator as your co-pilot. I don't know where that came from. No, I'm just kidding. It's just like, so these things, it's like, wow, choosing creator as your co-pilot, you can't go wrong, right? You can't go wrong. And what this reminds me of, and I heard this, from, our relative, Don Coyes, and the work that they've done through White Bison, and some of those teachings, and so ask yourself, and this is when people ask me, what do I do, Dean? How can I, how do I approach these things? So I this is what I do. I ask, what would creator have me do? It's not my will, because I know where that got me, right? So I have to choose creator as, again, as my co-pilot, right? And you can't go wrong. That doesn't mean you're going to have things, like when you want them, right? At the same time, I know, huh? So having humility and openness to take healthy risks, right? We have to humble ourselves and being open to take healthy risks, getting out of our comfort zone, right? Oh, heck, really? That's like the, first time when I was in, when I started my recovery, and it's like, I was assigned a counselor and it was a woman. I go, oh, heck no. Really? Okay. I know this person's there to help me. So I had to, have that humility and that openness, right? And then know that, it's okay, to learn too from others and that have a different perspective than myself, and that it's okay for me to take those healthy risks, get out of my comfort zone. It's more like protected zone, right? Conflict precedes clarity. I just threw this in there because I believe in this. And what this speaks to is that for all of us in our lives, and what I shared about yesterday about why we're here, we're going to have conflict. That's a part of life. We have to go through that struggle to see, to get on the other side of what is meaningful. Life is like that. It's not just like, cruise control, right? So, and that's going to be for ourselves. That's going to be in our relationship with others, right? And in our recovery, we're gonna question, and it's okay. And it's okay for us to question, why, we're going through anything that, causes us confusion, and because that's a part of, again, it's a good thing that we question, right? Trusting the process. Lastly, trusting the process, right? And I remember when I first heard this, I was like, really, seriously? But it's kind of like we want to see, like, the results, right? We're like, we want it now. Why do we have to go through this? Darn it. Yeah. Because I think, again, as human beings, we kind of like our emotions a lot of times get in the way, and that kind of like you heard it clouds our thinking, right? And knowing what's right and what's of value, and if we definitely have that idea around, I believe in this process of what's guided me here, then we could have some, kind of some relief, right? That it's going to be okay. So we definitely are not alone. Okay, next slide, please. So again, that whole idea, doing it with purpose, because these are, again, the cycle of life is purposeful. It is a Native American belief that our human experience is expressed through the four sacred obligations: to develop a strong body, develop a clear mind, develop a pure spirit, and develop a devotion to the welfare of your people, of our people. That last one, again, it's I was told that, kind of like that's the one thing that, can be our, I guess, our greatest calling is, to be of service, to be of welfare to our people, right? And I realize that, because that's what's been my role and my purpose. I didn't know that. I was like, in the work that I do. But it's wonderful that, once you see that, and the other ones, as far as a strong body, it's kind of like, again, honoring what this gift of life, right? What are you putting in your body? And really, for me, it's like, what are you putting in your body that, you know, helps it stay strong in every sense of when we look at that holistic view? What helps my body, you know, to have clear thinking, right? To have a feeling and an open heart and an open mind. And what do I, you know, how do I take care of my body where I can have that spiritual connection, right? And all these are interrelated. All these are interrelated. So I wanted to share that. Thank you. How are we doing, Joy, on time-wise?
You're good. It's
Okay.
5 minutes to 11, so we've got until 11:30.
Okay, cool. All right then. So again, it's important, you know, I just mentioned it yesterday, you know, kind of like, you know, our values. You know, what are our values? How do our values kind of influence us? How do our values guide us? You know, are they, you know, how do they impact, you know, what our thoughts are too, right? Because I believe that it's because of our values that, you know, you know, guide our thoughts, right? And so I've listed some of them, you know, that, you know, that have been shared with me that, you know, it's kind of like, I know every, you know, tribal nation, you know, are, you know, they have different teachings and, you know, they're all unique. But I think that, you know, there are some, you know, foundational, you know, core values that, you know, most of our tribal nations have in place. And so those values, again, are love, you know, and I think love is something that, to me, is reflective of the Creator. The Creator is love. So we want to move to love. We want to incorporate that love in all aspects of our life. You know, everything we do, right? Respect of all life, of all things. You know, respecting ourselves, and it starts with respecting ourselves, right? It's kind of like the whole idea. You know, if we can't respect ourselves, then what? It's like, how do we see the world? How do we relate? How do we, you know, communicate? You know, so we need that. We need that value. Honesty, which is, the honesty can be looked at as a, you know, one of our values, and also as a virtue, right? Something that is some strong medicine, you know, if we have honesty as one of our values. It's like, I believe with honesty we have integrity. Yeah, it's one of the best ways from which to, you know, do, you know, do our work, you know, and how we have relationships, right? So we can't go wrong. Bravery, yeah, that's you know, to me, bravery is actually tied into the next one, but I think bravery is associated also with, you know, being courageous in how we walk in this life, you know, how we see ourselves, you know, how others see us, you know, that bravery is associated also with confidence, because we need that. We need that to achieve, you know, again, achieve our goals, right? And again, bravery, we need bravery because we don't want to, you know, doubt ourselves. We don't want to, like, again, be this term wishy-washy, right? We want to, have confidence. We want to be intentional. And then humility, of course. That is, I could think of that as, one of our values that's kind of intertwined into so many other teachings, and I was taught this, by my grandmas, and I don't know if I said this yesterday, I'm a mama's boy, I'm grandma's boy, right? I come from a matriarchal society, and so I'm blessed because of that, I think I even went on the record, like my brother, my Homo sapien brother, Mark 10, that said I'm part woman. But yeah. So my grams taught me about humility. It's like everything we do. Be gentle, be kind. Be humble. And so that's why like sometimes it's I do the work, but at the same time I want to recognize how in my humbleness I'm open to learning. I'm open to learning too. Truth, like how it's associated with honesty. Again, a key value that when you have truth in your life, when you put, and to me, these are all ingredients of a good life. That's what they are. When you have truth, you have that love. You have that respect. You have that honesty, that bravery, that humility with truth. Wisdom. Wisdom is kind of like to me, it's kind of like that. I've learned these lessons. There's teachings at every aspect of. We never stop learning. So that wisdom is that understanding how at any part of our life, wisdom is really not guided. A lot of people say it comes from our elders. It does, but at the same time, that wisdom can come from a young child. And it's something that is so powerful that it keeps us grounded too. So those are values that I wanted to share with you all, and of course it kind of to me it's very powerful because there are 7 of them, and 7's a very sacred number to our people. Okay, so thank you. Next slide, Joy. Again, we have to recognize that we are the medicine that we needed, right? We are the medicine that we needed. Who would have thunk it, right? Hey, yeah, because when we're coming from, like a lot of our men have been, and when they recognize, they get to that point where they see that they are the medicine they needed. It's like coming full circle. And and we do that by affirming our innate gifts and choosing to walk in truth. There's that truth again, right? Not believing because somebody showed us or somebody told us we weren't worthy, we're not deserving. No, that's somebody else's. I dare say that's their stuff. I wouldn't even say that's their medicine, that's their way, but that's their stuff, right? So we need to bring it back, and we need to have that acknowledgement and that affirmation, right? That those gifts that the Creator had gifted us are going to, if we feed those gifts, we're going to blossom into, again, to the, great human beings we're intended to be. So I felt like it was important you know, again, you know, always, you know, I always want to like, this is part of what I also use, you know, and talk about when we talk about affirming, you know, again, our relatives, because that's something that, you know, has been lost in um, how we share with one another, right? Because of the society that we inherited that only speaks to about, you know, me, right? Well, it should be about us, about we, right? Our relatives, our relationship, our connection to our people, to one another. The next slide. So here we go. Culture is prevention, right? And I want to take it a little bit further too. Culture is prevention. This is kind of like something we use in our program here, you know, in my job here at Sonoma County Indian Health. But I think that you see that a lot more. You see that a lot more in other programs where they use this approach. And I look at it as our culture is our medicine for healing. Through the practice of our traditional ceremonies, we are moving in the direction of becoming whole again. And what I mean by that, what that speaks to, again, is, you know, when we talk about becoming whole again, it's about, again, being in balance mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? And that's kind of like, you know, that's what we're working on. The goal is to be whole again. Because if you think about it, when our men and our young boys, you know, our children have experienced trauma, they were broken apart. They were damaged, right? Parts of them were so taken apart, were so hurt that they didn't know, you know, how to react or how to respond. But it really was, you know, kind of like, it's a lot of times it's, I only know one way to survive, right? And a lot of times it's unhealthy ways if they have been broken apart and, you know, with trauma, right? So again, talk a little bit about, you know, how do we, you know, how does our ceremonies, you know, help us in moving in that direction of becoming whole again. So next slide, please. So again, you know, like I shared yesterday, you know, I'm a proud Homo sapien, you know, and I love this photo. You know, part of our culture is, again, you know, I'm a traditional dancer. This photo, I believe, was taken in the early 1900s, and this is at the community of Elam Indian Colony in Lake County. My ancestors, my relatives, and these are, you know, our shakehead dancers. You know, they're getting ready to pray, to, you know, dance for the people. And so I just love this, you know, I love this photo, you know, like, it makes me want to, like, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know if I said it yesterday, you know, like with this old shelter in, you know, and, you know, it's really hard because we're not able to, you know, have our ceremonies, you know, to have our dances. It's a strict law that bids us dance. It is a strict law that bids us distribute our property among our friends and neighbors. And what that, to me, what that is about is, you know, again, our Indian way, our law is that, you know, we dance for the people, and that we share that medicine, you know, and what we have among our friends, you know, and our relatives, right? Our neighbors, right? And that's that part of generosity too, which, you know, everything we do is spiritual in nature. So this is really powerful, again, you know, the different medicine ways. So thank you for allowing me to share this. Oh, next slide. So we have, like the different traditional medicine approaches, what I call traditional medicine approaches, okay, and smudging, and the thing that smudging is something that I practice, daily. It's something that I'm fortunate that I see in a lot of our programs, and the work that we do with our men, just that smudging, and maybe that's kind of like the beginning of, again, ceremony, of sharing of medicine, and how we do that, in a humble way, and and not to assume that, like any one of our men, our young boys know what that is, so it's an opportunity for us to share that teaching, and for them to learn, so that way, because the goal is for them to learn, so they can, take that teaching, and that they can have that for themselves and for their family. So another approach is, gathering plant medicines. Yeah, because that's spiritual in nature too, and it's not like, okay, we're just going to go out and gather some plants, because it has to be shown that it is a prayer. We're going to pray. We're going to go and ask Creator permission, and then and then give thanks, to those relatives, those plant relatives, and make an offering. And we're going to go gather that, whether it's sage, cedar, sweetgrass, angelica root, which we use, wormwood, different types of plant medicines that we use, balham, which is like the bay leaves, and so, and they all serve the specific purposes, in medicines, how to take care of ourselves, because what we were taught is like the Creator put our plant relatives here before us, and so we have that respect, and we have that responsibility to care for them, because they're going to help us, right? Have that relationship with them. Of course, sunrise ceremony of giving thanks. Raise your hand if you do sunrise ceremony. Hey, yeah. Like I always like, when we have our men's gatherings, who's the one that does the sunrise ceremony? I don't know why they always pick me. I guess I just wanted to sleep in, right? I won't name names, but this again, this is another traditional medicine approach. Again, way I was taught. It's like it's important for us. A traditional way, again, is to, every morning, we get up, we welcome, we pray to that, that morning star, and I was told too, if we don't do that, then we're kind of like, we're behind the gun, then we miss out, on that kind of that opening blessing, that gift of a new day, and so of course there's a sweat lodge ceremony. And one thing I want to say about the sweat lodge ceremony is every lodge is different, every ceremony is different, and people have different ways, and how they conduct those ceremonies, and so I was introduced to the sweat lodge ceremony when I first got on this recovery path some 28 years ago, and even though my ancestors, one of my grandfathers, they did have this ceremony. I'm sure it was different, I learned first, the Lakota way, and so there's California lodges too, and the sweat lodge ceremony, but it's about that medicine, and very powerful, very healing. Of course, our roundhouse ceremony, like I said, I'm a roundhouse. We are roundhouse people, a Pomo people, Miwok people, and in the parentheses there you see our big head dance, which is our most sacred, powerful ceremony for roundhouse. and because we do have, again, shake heads and feather dances in our roundhouse. Of course, we had the bear dance throughout California. Relatives down in Yosemite, I love going there, to participate in the bear dance. And then we have the jump dance that happens, up Northern California with our, Yurok relatives and, Hoopa relatives up down that way, all those relatives, have that ceremony. I haven't never participated, but, I've been invited, but see that it's a beautiful, powerful ceremony. And of course, the Sundance ceremony, that, comes from, a lot of times, our Lakota relatives and others, tribes from the Midwest, and actually, have those ceremonies that come here, into our territory also. So those are, different, and you could add to this list, I'm not saying these are the only ones, but I just created this list kind of just as a reference, and, what we provide, or what we, some of these that we do provide in our men's, wellness gatherings, and other times we work with our men and our young boys, to offer that to them. Thank you. Next slide. And then again, I want to look at, the other programs that support recovery for our men. Of course, it started out with Native Dads Network, right? Told that story, I gotta always prop up, because I don't know, because it might be watching. So yeah, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for Native Dads Network, being a part of, that history, and, just all the beautiful work, the lives impacted, working with the fathers, and the young men and the families, they're continuing doing great work, there in Sacramento and throughout the different regions, because I remember being a part of that, when we first started out, we would do it basically in Sacramento, but we'd travel to other areas, like, our relatives over in Bishop, and if any of our Bishop relatives, Manahu, for our Bishop relatives, if they're with us today, because we love going there, we love going there to Bishop, with that, and share that program. And of course, along with that, fatherhood is sacred, motherhood is sacred, is kind of like our kind of main, programming, curriculum, and teachings, very powerful, very impactful, programming, that's kind of like, it's going all over in other tribal communities, and so it has really impacted, in good ways, those communities. I see one of our relatives from Round Valley, Brother Joel, that is conducting that, and it's awesome because, with technology, everyone goes live, with the sessions, so it's great we have that. And of course, White Bison, White Bison has been around, for some time now, and, started out with, again, our relative, our elder Don Coyas, the Mohican Nation. And I love it. I love, Don, he's amazing, and again, I've heard him, I've been with him, shared, at conferences, that they've had, and one of the things, it's funny, he told me, he said, yeah, he goes, he was asked about, and I don't know how many of you heard of the movie The Last of the Mohicans. He said that's not a true story because I'm still here. So he's Mohican, so he's still with us. Anyway, Red Road to Wellbriety is one of the programs out of White Bison, the Red Road to Wellbriety 12-step, which is a really great program, And then also another one of White Bison is Warrior Down. Warrior Down is a reentry program and very powerful. I think not enough communities have that going on, and so like I said, it's for reentry people that have been, are coming back into their communities, that have been incarcerated or that have been at, whether they've been at treatment programs, so this is a great program. to support, our relatives, as they transition back into their communities. And of course, I have Red Road program. So the difference between Red Road cerebral body, which is, from White Bison, Red Road has its own specific curriculum, teachings, and it actually originated from our Lakota relative, Gene Thinelk, from South Dakota. And so, just always want to acknowledge Mr. Thinelk, and how he created that Red Road based on the Lakota principles. So it's a powerful program. But you see like a lot of, kind of adaptations, when people use that. And of course, there's Native Wellness Institute. They do some great, wellness programming, for our community, tribal community, men, women, families, youth, and I think currently they're on it with, they have their power hour every day. So it's really great, to see what they're doing. And of course, the GONA, which is a prevention curriculum, and gathering of Native Americans is a prevention curriculum. It's been around for a while now. Originated out of SAMHSA, and the best practices model, and very powerful. Based again on those foundational teachings of belonging, mastery, interdependence, and generosity. So, I know that Sacramento Native American Health Center, they're conducting a virtual GONA as we speak this week. So, and one that I didn't include on here, and you can find others if there's none. Maybe I didn't get them all, but this is kind of like what I'm, kind of like what came up for me. It is Two Feathers Native American Family Services, and they're up in Northern California. I want to say they're based out of McKinleyville, California, and they're you can find them online, and they're doing some powerful work too with their Native Speaker Series. A lot of good information, and so just want to recognize those programs. And if you need information, about those, you can find most of these online, or if not, I think Joy can share my information, and you can contact me. I can, hook you guys up. All right. Next slide. Again, it's just kind of re-emphasize that, idea around values, and tradition. And again, there was understanding teaching that gave us the instruction to honor all life and be thankful for our relations, for all our relations in creation. We did this with humility in our prayer and offerings to the Creator. We recognize the value of how we were given unique, special gifts to share with our relatives, right? So that's kind of like our purpose, right? To share those gifts, like those unique gifts that the Creator had given us. And again, we recognize the value and tradition of our roles as caretakers of Mother Earth, right? And every nation of man, has their specific role, and this is ours, And so I think that's why, sometimes it's, we have to, when we talk about healing and about, recovering, a lot of times it's just going out there, and getting connected again with, with our earth, and our Earth Mother will help us heal. So, we have, that respect, and that, and that acknowledging, that interconnectedness, because again, that's where, again, our ancestors, are in all our sacred spaces, places, our land. So I felt like it was important to share these teachings, these thoughts. Okay, next slide. What the heck? Who put this here? So Of course, I'm gonna reference one of my. I reference the GONA curriculum, and so Dr. Smalls is actually is Dr. Clayton Small, who is a colleague of mine. I actually acknowledge Dr. Clayton Small as one of my GONA gurus. Okay, and he's a Native man, Northern Cheyenne, a beautiful Native man that I admire and that I respect, and that has been one of my mentors. And so he shared again some ways that our Native men can recover from trauma. And so this is his list of those things that he came up with. Of course, spirituality is kind of like, again, that foundation. It's that foundation of how we begin to recover from that trauma. Because in spirituality, what it offers, it's our greatest source of strength and healing. So we need to like be mindful that we need to have that in kind of everything we do, and recognize feelings as Native men. A lot of times, we don't know how to express our feelings. We may not, we might not know, what to do with certain feelings, right? And a lot of times, because we've been traumatized, we've been hurt, it's just, we're in react mode, So again, going back to yesterday, we need to recognize what those feelings are, and if we need to, maybe, give ourselves, a timeout, take a breath, walk away, walk it out, and that our feelings, our emotions are, they're giving us, indications, on, what we need to do, or what we don't need to do, right? Embrace your culture. Definitely embrace your culture. And I just like, I'm so thankful that we have a culture, right? And that it's beautiful, and that we're so lucky, and that we have this culture that shows us how to live a good life, that reinforces again that idea around being a good relative, right? Being in balance. Learn to forgive. As Native men, we and it starts with ourselves. We need to learn how to forgive ourselves, and know that those were experiences, whatever hurt us or how we hurt others. Those were experiences for us to learn. But it starts with us. Forgiveness is so powerful. It's so key in our healing journey. And communication for our Native men. How do we communicate? How do we talk? We need to kind of like work on communicating in a gentle way, communicating with truth, right? Communicating with kindness, and again, avoiding violence as Native men, whatever it takes, and a lot of times it's like I see that if we go back to the same environment, or if we were hanging out with the same people, that's what they're about, and we know that okay, we probably need to change our friends. we need to make that choice, right? Because I know, just coming back on my own journey, coming back home, I was afraid. I was afraid. Oh, the homies are waiting for me. But guess what? And they would tell me that. Oh, it's so doesn't matter, Dean. It's just a matter of time. You're gonna be back with us. We'll be waiting. I think, are they still waiting 28 years later? Anyway, avoiding violence at every cost, overcoming conditioning. So as Native men, you know, we've been conditioned to believe a certain way, you know, to think a certain way, that, you know, it has to be that way, or, you know, the only way. But no, be open to change. Be open to change. We need to, and that's how we overcome that conditioning. It doesn't have to stay, you know, kind of like the same ingredient, right? Because when, in regards to the thinking, what we're trying to do is we're trying to rewire, you know, that computer of, you know, or, you know, what is, you know, or what can be, right? And of course, honor our women. Honor our women. You know, value our women, right? See them for, you know, sacred life givers, right? And because our women have for so long, you know, held it up for us, you know? And so it's our time as Native men to stand with them. And again, come back to fulfill those roles, you know, of being honorable men. So I appreciate, again, Dr. Small's prescription. So love that man. Thank you. And again, just kind of in closing, just remember, you know, again, we are caretakers of the sacred. We are caretakers of the sacred. Fatherhood is sacred. And, you know, if we, you know, embed that in our minds, in our hearts, then that change will begin. I believe that. We have that, you know, that intention like that. So again, I think that's my PowerPoint. So I hope I don't know if there's any questions, Joy. Thank you for.
Yep, that's the end of it, Dean. I'm going to go ahead and take everyone off mute.
Okay.
Give me just one quick second so I can see what I'm doing here. Oh, I have everyone unmuted. If you would like to ask a question, now's the time. I'm also gonna
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, my name is Sonia Chapman. I am calling from Victim Services with the DA's office. I just wanted to first say thank you so much. This was very enlightening and educational, and I really love the idea of being able to hear directly from members of the communities that we're focusing on. It's always nice to get that education, you know, in other ways, but I think there's something very special and credible about hearing about these things directly from people who are experiencing certain things directly. And one of the things that that you talked about, this isn't a question, I just wanted to say it blew me away to the point that I had to write it down. When you said, sir, about Mr. Hoaglin, when you said, are we being good ancestors? And you said that our ancestors had us in mind. And I just love the idea of conditioning, if you will. You just talked about conditioning our young people to be mindful and to be concerned about how we are setting up future generations. And so that question, the way that you posed it is wonderful. And I will be sharing that with as many people as I possibly can, because I think it's a very powerful question that actually makes a very powerful statement. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for being with us.
So we do have one in the question box, Dean, and it's again, it's a comment. It's thank you, Dean, for the great information. I would love to see some type of meeting held here in San Diego. And that's Sandra Toscano from Indian Health.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sandra.
So, does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so to be a little mindful of time, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and see if we have any questions. And then I'll go ahead and send everything out this afternoon.
Yeah, and just